Hey everybody, hope you're having a great day. I'm having a pretty good one, except that I really want to juggle, but my juggling props are really dirty and just gross because I went outside this weekend and juggled and let a lot of people use my props, and now they're just grimy. Some of them are really dirty, so I'm going to clean them. And I figured, hey, what a great opportunity to show all of my friends on the internet how they can clean their juggling props too, because I get asked that question all the time. I'm gonna be cleaning a variety of juggling props. I've got different types of beanbags here, Russian balls, different types of clubs, all the juggling props that are all sorts of gross. And I'm gonna show you how you can clean them quickly and safely without completely ruining them, because that would be so sad. There are a few different methods. I'm gonna show you my favorites, so regardless of where you live or what supplies you have access to, you should be able to clean your juggling props pretty well. All right, let's start with clubs. They're one of the easiest to clean because they're just a nice solid material. You don't have to worry about fabric or anything like that. So right here is a club that I use inside. This is just normal dirt from my hands from everyday juggling. So you can clean clubs a few different ways. My favorite and the easiest is to get some sort of sanitizing wipe. I personally like to use hand sanitizer wipes because they're antibacterial and they're in a nice, quick, easy package that I can take with me on the road when I'm traveling and just quickly sanitize my props. You can also use baby wipes. They're pretty much the same thing. Or you can get Clorox disinfecting wipes. I personally recommend getting the kind that is free and clear of like harsh chemicals and all that. Most juggling clubs are pretty dang durable and they're gonna be fine. I have used the regular Clorox wipes on them and have never had any problems, but if you're worried about it, get the kind without the chemicals or get the hand sanitizer wipes or the baby wipes. And then it's pretty self-explanatory. You just take your wipe and you can start wiping down the club. Now, I'm especially concerned about the handle because that's what I'm touching the most. I don't really care about the bulb that much personally, but I especially prefer to clean the handles of my clubs so that I don't get sick and I just get rid of all those germs. So yeah, and that is a lot cleaner than it was. And that's pretty much it. That took me 30 seconds. Okay, so what if you don't have wipes? Whether you don't have access to them where you live, or you don't like the idea of using things that you just throw away, you want to be more environmentally friendly, get yourself some water, you put some soap in there, nice, get it nice and soapy, get it all over the place if you're like me. Now, when you're using just soap and water on your clubs, you don't want to get the club really wet. Because this is a multi-piece club, there are pieces that are connected and we don't want water to seep inside of there. We don't want the dowel in the middle to get wet because it's made of wood and it can rot. And you also just don't want water to get in there because it can slosh around, it can create mold. So when you're doing this with soap and water, make sure to get a lot of that water out. And then you can just start wiping the club down with your sponge or your towel. Ta-da! Of course, any club is not going to look as shiny and new as when you first bought it. You can see here, there are still some marks on this club. A lot of those are permanent. It's hard to get them completely out, but this method will definitely disinfect them and clean off most of those normal smudges from everyday use. So this is a grip club. It's got dirt all up inside of those grooves, which is annoying, but it happens. Gross. Yeah. Okay, so the knobs and the tops of clubs especially have a tendency to get really dirty. Because they're foam, they absorb that dirt pretty intensely. It's pretty hard to get it off. You wanna be careful not to like chip away at the foam because it's gonna do that anyway when you juggle. You don't wanna add to it. But I still like to wipe them off with soap and water to give them a nice newish look, but they are still gonna be dirty because it's made of foam. So you can see this beanbag is pretty dang dirty. A lot of beanbags are made of this ultra leather material and have millet or seeds inside of them. So you really want to be careful not to get them too wet or put them in the washer or anything like that, because it can shrink up and ruin the beanbag. For beanbags like this, my favorite is just using those baby wipes. You can just lightly start wiping these off. And I recommend taking a towel and just cleaning it off right after, because again, we don't want that leather to be wet for very long. You can already see That white is coming back. It's not as dirty. Now, this is an older beanbag, so there are cracks in the leather. It's gonna be hard to get the dirt out of those cracks. Over time, props are just gonna get dirty and collect some of that residue anyway, but this is a really good way to just do an overall clean on it, make sure it's not too dirty, and sanitize it so it's ready to go next time you use it. And there we have it. It's a lot cleaner. So if you have Sportco beanbags, G balls, if you have the Taylor Tries Pro beanbags or the Taylor Tries Beginner beanbags, this is the method I recommend. If you don't have wipes and you want to use soap and water, these especially, you want to get as little water as possible and even as little soap as possible. I'm just gonna wipe off the soap a little bit. These are the Josh Horton Pro beanbags. This one has gotten very dirty, and I'm just gonna come in and just lightly wipe off this ball. Being careful not to let too much water get into the seams, because I don't want the millet inside to get wet and then expand and dry funny. And again, I'm gonna wipe it off as quickly and as much as possible in between. That's how I would recommend cleaning beanbags that you can't just wash in the washer. Now this is a Juggle Quip beanbag. This is a waterproof beanbag that you can literally run under the sink or put in the washing machine. These are my favorite beanbags to use outside for that reason, but you can also use baby wipes on these if you're just trying to do a spot clean, and that works really well. You can do the same thing with your Russian style balls and just take your baby wipes or whatever wipes you've got and just clean them off. Get all that dirt off of there. Anything hard plastic like that, Russian balls, stage balls, contact poi, clubs, they're the easiest to clean because they're just that plastic and you can just wipe them off. With diabolos and even like contact balls and other types of plastic props, you are gonna get things like this discoloration here. That's not gonna come out. Sometimes on like white props, you'll see them as pink spots. Sometimes they're dark blackish spots. It's just the discoloration of the plastic. Not much you can do about it except preventing it, which I think comes from it rubbing up on other materials. With a diabolo, it's gonna happen from the string anyway. If you know a way to get rid of those marks, please leave them in the comments. I have never found one. I don't think it's possible. So those are the ways that I have cleaned my props throughout the years. I have never had any issues with it. I think overall, if you just use some dish soap with some water, or you use some sort of gentle wipes and disinfectant wipes, you should have a pretty good time with it. Of course, you can try different methods that might work better for you. Overall, the things you want to really avoid is do not put this in a bucket of water. Do not submerge your clubs because water will get inside and ruin it. So don't do that. Some people I know do use alcohol, and I think that's okay for things like clubs, but if you're using it on beanbags, just be careful because the alcohol can dry out the beanbags and materials and you just don't want to do that. But for things like Russians and clubs, you're probably fine. In terms of how frequently you should clean your props, I don't think you need to do it that often. I tend to do it maybe once a month, just when they start to get a little bit grimy feeling. And for me personally, anytime I let somebody else use my props or I go traveling, I always disinfect them almost every day just to keep up on that. But overall, I don't think it's something you need to do too frequently. It just depends on how often you're using your props, how you're using them, where you're using them, and how sanitary you want to be with it. I will say that a lot of club jugglers especially don't like to clean the bodies of their clubs because they like the grime that builds up because it makes it easier to do rolls and contact moves. So keep that in mind. You don't have to wash your props if you don't like to. It's just a preference thing. I like them to look a little cleaner. I don't do a lot of those styles of tricks anyway. I also just get sick a lot, so I like to keep things sanitary. All right, well, that's all I've got on that. I hope it helps. I hope you go out there and have a nice, clean, sanitary juggle with all of your fancy props. And now you know how to clean them and keep them sanitary for the next time you want to juggle. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing and liking it and stuff. Thank you to everyone who is a member of my Patreon. I adore you. It means so much. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. If you're traveling to juggling conventions, if you're traveling to juggling conventions or festivals,